The fifth line on the receipt read, "Counter service adjustment $1.50. Julian Mercer had not looked at it yet. He was still crouched beside the register, picking up a quarter Raina Doyle had dropped from the coin tray. She had placed the rest of his change on the counter instead of in his hand. The quarter rolled beneath a chrome stool. Raina was already looking past him. A white man in a blue polo had entered after Julian. Cole Avery straightened behind the coffee station. "Good afternoon, sir. Coffee or lunch?" Julian stood with the quarter between two fingers. He had been waiting at the register for nearly a minute. Neither employee had greeted him. That morning, Julian had read several reviews of Red Maple Northgate from the kitchen of a small guest house outside Columbus. None used the word discrimination. They mentioned coupons that stopped working, cashiers who seemed irritated, and receipts customers wished they had checked sooner. He arrived before noon wearing a gray hoodie, faded jeans and sneakers with a worn left sole. The photograph of Evelyn Mercer hung near the entrance. Flour marked her apron in the picture. A fingerprint crossed the glass over her shoulder. Julian's mother had opened the first Red Maple with one dining room and a borrowed griddle. The frame was slightly crooked. Julian left it that way. When Raina finally turned toward him, she did not offer a menu. She pointed at a laminated value board beside the register. "The cheaper items are there. I'd like the Evelyn plate." Raina looked at his hoodie, then pressed several keys. "That takes longer." Two dinner plates waited beneath the pass-through lamp. Marisol Vega stood behind them with a folded kitchen towel. "I can wait," Julian said. He paid with a $20 bill. Raina held the bill by one corner, opened the drawer, and entered an item Julian did not see. She closed the drawer before the customer display returned to the order screen. Julian carried his coffee to a booth near the counter and opened a pocket notebook. A family entered several minutes later. Cole met them before they reached the register. He described the daily special, brought high chairs, and opened a glass cookie jar for the two children. Each child received a cookie in a red paper sleeve. Then a black woman entered with a boy wearing a space-themed backpack. Cole remained behind the register. The woman ordered 2 sandwiches and sat near the window. Her son watched the other children unwrap their cookies. "Do kids get those?" the woman asked. Cole glanced at the jar. Several cookies remained against the glass. Those were the last ones. The boy lowered his backpack to the floor. Julian wrote down the time. A white woman later presented a coupon from a mailer. The expiration date had passed the previous week. Raina scanned it, smiled, and entered a manual discount when the barcode failed. "Close enough," she said. The next customer wore work boots and a reflective vest. He was black. His coupon came from the same mailer and remained valid through the end of the month. Raina scanned it once. The device gave a flat error tone. "I can't override that. You just did it for the other customer." That was a different offer. Both coupons showed the same promotion code. Raina looked behind him. "You're holding up the line." The floor behind the worker was empty. He folded the coupon, paid full price, and left with a paper bag. Julian requested a coffee refill. Cole filled a cup without a lid and placed it near the counter's edge. Coffee crossed the rim and darkened Julian's sleeve. Cole turned back to the register. No towel came with the cup. Julian returned to his booth and opened his receipt. He found the adjustment beneath the Evelyn plate. The fee did not appear on the value board, the printed menu, or the disclosure card near the sugar packets. An uncleared table beside him held another receipt from the same register. That customer had paid by card. No adjustment. Julian placed both receipts together and photographed the transaction numbers. Same register. Same lunch period. 2 different totals. One line had no menu item behind it. Did you notice which one? Raina Doyle tore a shift preview strip from the thermal printer and folded it before Cole Avery could read the manual charge total. She slipped the strip beneath the till drawer. The lunch rush had thinned. 3 booths remained covered with bowls, forks, and crumpled placemats. Julian Mercer sat near the front with a ceramic mug and both forearms resting on the table. Raina walked over. "We need this section for incoming guests." Julian looked across the empty seats. "Which table do you need?" "The host decides placement." There was no host on duty. Raina lifted the bus tub from the next booth, but left the dirty dishes where they were. She carried the empty tub toward the kitchen, then set it beside the swinging door. Cole watched from the register. "Sir, you've finished your meal. We can't have people using booths as workspaces." Julian closed the small calendar app on his phone. "No one has asked to sit here." "That isn't the point," Raina said. "It affects turnover." She returned behind the counter. Julian stayed seated. A wall clock moved past 1. The sandwich press clicked off. Marisol Vega placed a metal cover over the soup kettle and began sorting utensils into a gray rack. Raina and Cole spoke with their backs angled toward Julian. He did not look up. "You're still adding it to cash orders?" Cole asked. "Only the ones that won't turn into a whole thing." "And then what?" "You wait until closing. Use Owen's PIN. Void the adjustment. The drawer shows the customer paid more than the final total." Cole tapped a cashier key with one fingernail. "How much has it made?" "Enough." Raina unfolded the shift preview strip and pointed to one column. "Small amounts. Nobody drives back over $1 or $2. Most people don't ask for an itemized slip." Cole gave a short laugh. Julian placed the ceramic mug down. Behind the swinging door, Marisol stopped with a handful of utensils above the gray rack. She lowered them one at a time. Raina continued. "Owen doesn't check. He closes the alerts as training variants." Cole asked whether Owen knew his PIN was being used. "He gave it to me. He got tired of driving over here for every void." A young woman entered carrying a canvas tote filled with textbooks. Blue ink marked the side of her hand. She studied the overhead menu and counted several bills against the counter. "I'm short by 80 cents, she said. "Could I get the soup without the side?" Raina pushed the bills back. "The combinations are fixed. I can pay for the rest on Friday. We can't hold orders." No one stood behind the woman. Her name was Nia Foster. A university badge hung from the strap of her tote. She gathered the bills again. A nickel slipped between the floor tiles. Cole saw it fall. He stayed at the register. Julian stood, crossed the dining room, and placed 80 cents beside Nia's money. "Please give her the meal," she ordered. Nia looked at the coins. "You don't need to." "I know." Raina pulled the money toward the drawer. Julian pointed to the thermal printer. "And an itemized sales slip. The printer is down." The shift preview strip still protruded from beneath the drawer. Julian looked at it once, then write the items in total by hand. Raina's fingers remained on the drawer handle. "We're not required to create custom paperwork during service." Julian waited. Cole finally entered the order. The thermal printer activated and produced a kitchen ticket. Raina tore it off quickly. Julian said nothing. He returned to his table and sent Leah Grant the store number, 2 sales references, the time of the conversation, and the name of the open price charge. He attached photographs already stored on his phone. His final instruction was short: preserve first, decide later. At corporate controls, Leah located the open price key. She found repeated void activity under Owen Pierce's manager credential. The register changed state. A blue banner covered the ordering screen. Control reconciliation hold. Raina entered Owen's PIN. Access denied. She tried to close the till. Access denied. Owen arrived 12 minutes later carrying a ring of office keys. He said the hold was probably a network problem and asked everyone to wait while he called technical support. Leah's voice came through the back office speaker. "No one touches the drawer. Open the reconciliation room." Marisol stood beside the kitchen lockers. Inside her apron were 3 shift-close strips she had kept after earlier totals failed to match the cash count. Owen opened the office door and told Leah that no employee had ever reported a concern. Marisol took 1 strip from her apron. Her Saturday schedule was pinned to the corkboard behind Owen's desk. Keep the strips hidden and protect the hours paying her rent, or place them on the desk and let Owen control one final schedule. Which would you choose? It's covered under service recovery. Owen Pierce opened a policy binder to a page marked with a yellow tab. Leah Grant appeared on the secure conference monitor. A recording indicator glowed beside her name. Owen read the first paragraph. Local managers could authorize adjustments to resolve guest dissatisfaction. He stopped there. Leah asked him to continue. Owen kept one palm across the lower half of the page. Julian Mercer sat away from the head of the reconciliation table. Marisol Vega stood near the door with 3 folded closeout records. Leah repeated the request. Owen moved his hand. Service recovery adjustments may reduce a guest's balance. They may not create a surcharge, gratuity, or unlisted fee. Raina Doyle had used the exception in the opposite direction. Owen turned to another section titled Manager Delegation. He said the policy allowed senior employees to complete routine corrections while he was unavailable. The paragraph permitted task delegation. The sentence beneath it required each employee to authenticate through an individual credential. Leah entered both passages into the audit minutes. Then she identified Julian, for the record, as Chief Executive of Red Maple Family Dining and executive signatory on the control action. No announcement reached the dining area. Raina did not learn his title from applause, a speech, or a regional manager walking through the front door. She heard it through the conference speaker after the register had been locked and the records had been preserved. Julian asked to be removed from the disciplinary decision. Test the evidence as though I were any customer who kept the sales reference. Leah accepted the recusal. Marisol placed the closeout records on the table. The reconciliation ledger connected them to several weeks of register activity. An access matrix showed Owen's credential being used while his authentication badge was active at another Red Maple location. A variance chart showed the same sequence after cash purchases. An unlisted adjustment appeared. The adjustment disappeared before final settlement. The closing cash total fell by the same amount. A camera index placed Raina at the register during each sequence. Cole Avery appeared beside her during several of them. Sampling across the previous year showed the charge was concentrated on Black and Latino customers. Comparable orders handled by other cashiers did not carry it. Complaint records showed that customers who questioned their totals were sent back to Northgate. Owen had closed 3 variance warnings as training issues without reviewing the underlying sales. He had also reduced Marisol's weekend hours after she asked why his credential appeared during shifts when he was absent. Raina's system access had been disabled when the control action began. The completed review terminated her employment for cause. The finding listed discriminatory pricing, fraudulent customer charges, cash theft, selective denial of promotions, misuse of another employee's credentials, and instruction of a subordinate to participate. Raina appealed. She described the charge as an informal service adjustment and said the voids corrected customer totals before the books closed. Leah placed the guest-facing totals beside the settlement records. The customers had paid the higher amount. The books had been reduced afterward. The difference had not returned to the customers. The appeal was denied. A substantiated compliance finding was attached to Raina's personnel file. She was marked ineligible for employment at every Red Maple entity and barred from any company position involving cash, pricing, or customer accounts. The referral packet went to local law enforcement and the company's commercial crime insurer. The investigation matched register activity to camera timestamps and employee access records. Months later, Raina entered a guilty plea to theft-related charges. The court ordered repayment of the amount tied to her activity, supervised probation, and completion of financial crime restitution requirements. The company could not collect the same loss twice through insurance and restitution. Leah's team maintained a recovery ledger showing every payment and every customer reimbursement funded from it. Cole was also terminated. His cooperation was recorded. He provided a written account of how Raina taught him to use the adjustment and how the money was divided. That cooperation reduced the charge pursued against him. It did not erase it. Cole entered a plea to a lesser theft count and remained responsible for the transactions tied to his employee account. He was ineligible for rehire and could not transfer to another location. Owen lost his management position for sharing credentials, dismissing variance warnings, returning complaints to the employees named in them, and retaliating through scheduling. His finding marked him ineligible for any Red Maple supervisory, cash control, or compliance role. He could not return 6 months later as an assistant manager at another diner. Marisol received back pay for the hours removed from her schedule. Future evaluations moved outside Northgate's local management chain. A retaliation protection order required regional approval for any change to her hours, station, or disciplinary record. She was not promoted during the investigation. The review credited her for preserving the closeout records. It also documented that earlier reporting might have reduced the number of affected customers. After 6 months of training and an independent performance review, She became eligible to apply for shift lead. The customer remedy did not use gift cards. Card payments were returned automatically. Cash customers could submit claims using the transaction time, order description, employee name, or loyalty history. They were not required to possess the original paper receipt when company records and camera indexes matched. Every affected customer received a written correction. The notice stated that the counter service adjustment was not an approved fee, tax, or gratuity. It confirmed that the customer had not requested it. It also removed the charge from Red Maple's internal purchase history, so no future employee could treat it as a service the customer had accepted. Nia Foster appeared in the reimbursement schedule because an earlier visit carried the same unauthorized adjustment. She received the refund through the same independent process as every other customer. Julian did not contact her personally. He did not turn the reimbursement into a charitable gesture. Red Maple then removed local open price authority. Every saleable item had to exist in the corporate charge dictionary. The employee who created a charge could not reverse the same transaction. Manager approval required an authentication badge and a one-time code. Any manual adjustment appeared on the customer-facing display before payment. A central guest integrity team received pricing complaints directly. The location named in the complaint could submit a response, but it could not close the case. An anomaly engine flagged repeated cash adjustments, late reversals, and unusual differences in promotion use. Child benefits were attached automatically to qualifying meals instead of being distributed at a cashier's discretion. Matched pair reviewers began testing greeting time, promotion acceptance, seating, and final price across the chain. Julian signed the final governance finding. The first section did not name Raina, Cole, or Owen. It named the controls the company had failed to build. Shared credentials, unrestricted open price items, local complaint closure, no required review of repeated cash variances. Julian did not name the reform after his mother. He did not record a promotional interview beside her photograph. The frame near the entrance was cleaned and straightened. That was all. Months later, Jocelyn Price stood at the Northgate service station. A white woman presented a promotion from the monthly mailer. Jocelyn passed it beneath the redemption reader. A green confirmation appeared. The next customer was a black construction worker carrying the same promotion. Jocelyn did not hold it beneath a lamp. She did not ask where he had obtained it. She used the same motion. The same reduction appeared on the customer display. The scanner made the same sound twice. This story is fictional.